Hey, Habs fans, before we jump into the show, it is gift shopping season. Think about it. There's no better way to put a smile on your loved one's face than to share a special photo. Skylight Frame brings your favorite memories to life right in your home. So this holiday season, give the gift that keeps on giving, memories. Whether it's for grandparents who adore seeing the grandkids' latest antics, or maybe even a friend who loves capturing every single moment, the Skylight Frame is the perfect gift to bring joy and connection into any home. With no app or subscription required and just a quick 1-minute setup, Skylight is designed to be easy for all ages. You just simply plug in the frame and you're ready to start sharing memories. It's got a 10-inch color touchscreen which allows for easy interaction, letting you pinch and crop and zoom your photos directly on the frame. You can preload your favorite photos before you gift the Skylight Frame, and photos can be shared really easily via the free Skylight mobile app or email with no account or subscription required, which makes it really simple for everyone to contribute photos to the frame. Skylight Frame is a really great private way to share photos without having to post them to the world on social media or printing hard copies. Skylight Frame can hold up to 8,000 photos with 8 gigs of space. They're displayed in HD resolution. You can choose from 5 different frame styles, set it up in portrait or landscape mode. So for a limited time, get 20% off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to ca.skylightframe.com/hockey. That's right. To get 20% off your Skylight Frame, just go to ca.skylightframe.com/hockey. That's ca.skylightframe.com/hockey. Now let's get to the show. Welcome to your Canadiens Connection on Rocket Sports Radio. We are proud to be the trusted source for all things Habs for more than a decade. This is the Canadiens Connection podcast. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Canadiens Connection podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio, where we keep you informed, engaged, and entertained all about the Montreal Canadiens. My name is Amy Johnson. I'll be your host for today's show. This is episode 326 of the Canadiens Connection podcast, titled From Goals to Goaltending. What's on the Habs Christmas list this year? I think there might be a lengthy list, and I think Santa is already weighing heavily on the naughty or nice if for those Montreal Canadiens. We're going to talk about that a lot with my co-host who's here in the studio with me. He's our founder and president of Rocket Sports. His name is Mr. Rick Stevens. What do you think? Is the naughty nice review heavily underway?
Well, first, it's good to be here and good to have you here. Good to have our listeners here. The Naughty Nights list has been ongoing since at least the beginning of October, and Jekyll and Hyde going on, where the Canadiens, they start looking good, they start feeling good about themselves, and then kind of get knocked down a peg or two, as happened at the end of their 5-game road trip this week.
Mm-hmm. We're definitely going to talk about that game in particular. But on today's show, what can you expect? Well, we're going to give you a quick jump around the games that have taken place for the Canadiens between last week's episode and today. We're also going to get you caught up on the latest roster news, as well as a full prospect report, peeking in on some Habs prospects in different leagues, but of course also including an update for the Laval Rocket and the Trois-Rivières Lions. We're going to get back to that game against the Penguins when we get to our quotes of the week section in our first segment. There was some pretty pretty pronounced things that were said in the post-game press conferences that we'll want to talk about and let you listen to. And then to wrap up our first segment, there's a lot of NHL news to cover this week. We've got some trades. We've got some general news regarding kind of the future of different rules, regulations, whatever, that kind of thing in the NHL. So lots to talk about there. And then that all leads us up to the second segment where we are unwrapping the Habs holiday wish list and talking about what they need Santa to bring them the most. And as I said, as I alluded to, it could be a lengthy list. We're gonna hit the 10 things that Santa needs to deliver to the Montreal Canadiens at Christmas this year. We've got a really fun Canadiens Connection question of the week for all of you to answer. We can't wait to hear what you have to say about it. And of course, in our third segment, we are going to go back and review last week's Canadiens Connection question of the week and hear from you. Here's from some of our best responses to last week's question of the week in our third segment. And we actually have a really fun and interesting Rocket Sports update for you this week as well. So we have a lot to get to today.
Mm-hmm.
Let's kick it off with just taking a quick trip back in time to review the Habs games this past week, starting with the game in Montreal against Washington. And, well, Washington is not sitting where they're at, fluctuating at or near the top of the Eastern Conference by a mistake. They're a strong team, and they managed to come up with another victory against Montreal on Bell Center ice, winning that game 4-2.
And the Canadiens had started well in this game. They were going for their third win in a row, which they haven't done all season and haven't done for quite some time. And started well, as I said, Alex Newhook and Cole Caulfield with first period goals. Lane Hudson assisting on Newhook's goal and extended his point streak. And then the 4 unanswered goals by Washington, started by Pierre-Luc Dubois in the second period. He looks like a different guy. Somehow Washington's been able to unlock him. It was a difficult game and a difficult loss. And the only thing that was really outstanding, I thought, was Patrick Laine's suit. He's had some great suits that he arrives at the Bell Center with, but this was a Saturday night game. And
I think it was his first Saturday night at the Bell Center.
Yeah, and it looked to me, it had an RCMP vibe to it, just with the red and the blue and
the hat. It was the hat.
Yeah.
No, he looked very sharp. Patrick Laine is not afraid of some pretty out there fashion statements. Some of his stuff goes a little wild, but this I thought very classy, very attention grabbing.
Striking, yeah.
It looked really good. So Patrick Laine would also play a factor in the following game, which was when Montreal hosted the Anaheim Ducks. This actually went to the shootout. Montreal actually winning this one by a very slim 3-2 margin in the shootout. But it was one Mr. Patrick Laine who managed to get the game deciding goal.
He did. He started the scoring in that game with a power play goal, his third power play goal of the season. And Lane Hudson got the assist on that, again extending his assist streak, point streak. Kirby Dach even got on the board, only his second goal of the season. Bit of a fluky goal, but a gift really from Lucas Dostal in net for Anaheim. And then it was, as you said, Patrick Laine with a game-deciding goal in the shootout, giving Montreal the win.
That's right. Cole Caulfield also scored in the shootout, but since it was Laine who had struck first, he gets the game-deciding goal. And then that brought us to Thursday night's game where the Canadiens hosted the Pittsburgh Penguins in what looked like it wasn't going to be too terrible of a game that quickly devolved into an absolute shellacking. Pittsburgh winning 9-2. And okay, so Montembeault doesn't get pulled until partway through the third period. But this was the fifth. I think you and I even mentioned something about this. Like Caden Primo has just disappeared off the starters block for quite a while now. We'll see if that's going to change at all in the next couple of days. But this was Montembeault's fifth straight start, and boy, I mean, how many times are they going to have to pull a goaltender this year?
Well, it's often quoted that Sam Montembeault is in a tie for shutouts in the league, but he also there's no goaltender who has been pulled more this season in the NHL than Sam Montembeault. After allowing 6 goals on 26 shots, Marty St. Louis had enough. Now, Caden Primo, not much better. 3 goals on just 7 shots. He gave up. He was cold. The team wasn't playing well at that point. But I think we expected a kind of a 1/3, 2/3 split with respect to the goaltenders. But it's been all Monty all the time, and that hasn't. And when Primo has been given starts, he hasn't delivered. But that's caused them to use him less, and his performance has declined.
We've seen in the past too what happens when Caden Primo doesn't get at least a somewhat regular rhythm and rotation. He plays better when he has some confidence from getting some starts.
It's just he's pretty lost now. And it's a mental issue, and it's been very difficult for him. It's also been a somewhat mental issue for the Montreal Canadiens against the Pittsburgh Penguins. They've played 3 times already this season, and Montreal's given up 18 goals to Pittsburgh in those 3 games. On Thursday night, it was mostly the Penguins top line that did all the damage. Brian Russ, Sidney Crosby, Raquel, I think they had 11 points or thereabouts amongst the 3 of them. But yes, just ugly. The Canadiens in the game until the third period, and then the wheels fell off. Absolutely. Or I think Marty said it was the chain that fell off the bicycle, something like that.
Yeah. Something like that. That leaves the Canadiens with an 11-15-3 record, 29th in the NHL with their 23 points. We've got 2/3 of the season left to go.
Well, I think that's the scary part. Is the season's moving along at quite a pace. We're in December and 10 days from Christmas and the Christmas break, and they played 1/3 of the season, 35% of the season already. And I think fans are waiting for them to break out of this funk, and it just may be who the Canadiens are this season, and that's difficult to swallow. Habs with a 2.6% chance of making the playoffs. They're on pace for a 75-point season, which would be very disappointing.
Yes, to say the least. Okay, well, we will bring you a little bit of holiday cheer as we talk about the roster a little bit, because one of the things that the Canadiens players did this week is an annual favorite, I think, of the players, of the fans, and certainly of the recipients when the Canadiens visit the Montreal area children's hospitals, and they visited 3 of them on Wednesday. It's always a really lovely sight. The photos and videos that they get from each of these annual trips to visit the children's hospitals are always really heartwarming. Many times they're funny, and they're just really touching. And so it was fun to see them back at it again this week.
It's an annual Christmas tradition started by Jean Beliveau more than 50 years ago. And yeah, the faces on the kids, the big smiles, and the excitement in their eyes. But I think the players get a lot out of it too, because you see huge smiles on their faces. Patrick Laine was giving out friendship. He had his whole arm full of friendship bracelets that he was giving out. It was an opportunity for, David Reinbacher to join the team. Michael Pezzetta was there. It's always a great event, and it was again this year.
Absolutely. Always love to see it. Other roster news, David Savard ended up not playing on Thursday in that Pittsburgh Penguins game due to an upper body injury. He is day-to-day. Struble replaced him on Thursday in the lineup.
There was no game day skate on Saturday, so we don't know if David Savard will be back in the lineup or not. Kind of leaning towards thinking that Struble will be in the lineup again.
Or maybe they could ask Andrei Markov to suit up. Because
he was he was at the Bell Center on Saturday night for the game against the Washington Capitals. And there as a spectator, and the Canadiens really didn't do the normal, bringing him on the ice or that sort of thing. He didn't speak to the crowd. There was a little montage that they put together, and they showed him up in his seats in a box. Markov was there with his son, his youngest son, Alex, who's I think is 6 years old. And they got a nice response from the Bell Center. It was the first time in 7 years that Andrei Markov had been back, kind of unceremoniously ousted by Marc Bergevin, just 10 games shy of him hitting the 1,000-game mark with the Montreal Canadiens. He did a couple of interviews, and he said, yeah, maybe there was some bitter feelings at one time, but he's turned the page, has no regrets, had a great career in Montreal, and he finished by saying that he is a lucky man. What is he doing? Well, he spent a year, I believe, as an assistant coach in the KHL, and that wasn't right for him. Would he consider coming back at some time? Oh, maybe. I think he's open to that, but right now he's focused on his kids and his kids' hockey and all of that. He maybe was surprised. He's a humble man. He was somewhat surprised that when he walks the streets in Montreal, he's still recognized.
As he should be.
Yeah, and he said that, he appreciates it. It's flattering. It's an indication that what he did for the team still meant something to them. So very nice visit to the city for Andrei Markov.
Love to see that. All right, well, let's switch gears just a bit and check in on the Habs prospect report.
It's time for the Rocket Report. The Rocket Sports Media Team is your premier source for information about the Laval Rocket, the AHL affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens, as well as Habs prospects playing in the CHL, NCAA, and leagues around the world.
And we have an Oliver Kapanen update for you again this week. He had a two-goal game this week, and now that he's kind of, I know that we talked about him, was it last week or the week before?
Last week.
It was last week.
He got his first goal of the season.
First goal, yeah. So it seems like he's settling in now a little bit because now the goals keep coming.
3 goals in total, 5 assists, 8 points in 9 games. I think he's doing just fine in the SHL.
I think he's doing just fine as well. Tyler Thorpe, if you remember that name from recent draft years, playing for the Vancouver Giants, had 4 assists in a game this week. 4
assists for him this week. Tyler Thorpe made a bit of a impact at development camp. He was very physical and has been very physical when he got back to the Vancouver Giants. But also putting up the points, 10 goals, 14 assists for 24 points in 28 games this season in the WHL for the Giants.
Now, we did mention last week that the Canadiens made an AHL level trade around the same time that the whole Jacob Trouba thing was going on last week. Noel Hoffenmeyer, coming to the Canadiens organization, still has not yet played for Laval, hasn't made his way into the lineup yet, because quite frankly, they have a lot of defensemen. So it's going to be, not sure yet. Laval does play Saturday night and Sunday afternoon this weekend, so maybe on a back-to-back, a really quick turnaround back-to-back on the road, maybe he'll get his first game. We'll have to see. But he is, Rick, apparently quite thrilled to be part of the Canadiens organization.
He is. And there was a post that was circulated on X from Kenny Walls, who covers the Ottawa 67s. And Kenny said former 67 star defenseman Noel Hoffenmeyer was traded to the Montreal Canadiens organization and posted a picture. He said, "This is Noel's dad's bathroom when Noel was growing up." And the pictures are amazing. The Hoffenmeyer family lived in Toronto. Father Rupert, big fan of the Montreal Canadiens, so painstakingly renovated their family home, their bathroom, in Canadiens colors on the wall, ceramic tile, but on the floor of the bathroom was a seat plan for the old Montreal Forum.
Done in tile.
In tile. Yes. It's amazing work. And this being in Toronto, Noel's friends, when they came over when he was growing up, if they had to use the bathroom, they had to use the Montreal Canadiens bathroom. I'm sure it had quite an effect.
Maybe they just held it till they got home.
But obviously, and Noel said he and his dad, Rupert, used to watch Canadiens games regularly on RDS, and so he has no issues communicating in French either. So a real nice time for the Hoffenmeyer family.
Definitely. Speaking of Laval, they've had a kind of an up and down week. They did manage to beat the Toronto Marlies in their second of the back-to-back. This was a Saturday afternoon game last week. Owen Bet, it was a little wide open. Jakob Dobish is day to day with a lower body injury right now. So Connor Hughes getting the starts right now. And Hughes didn't always look 100% confident. He had some good saves, but it was a bit of a high scoring affair. Laval actually ended up winning this one 5-4, but it was Owen Beck that scored the game winner with just 24 seconds left on the clock.
And I like his celebrations, kneeling down, and he was thrilled to get this game winner.
Not so thrilled on Wednesday night as Laval wrapped up their homestand with a visit from the Rochester Americans. Laval looked pretty lackluster in this particular game. Rochester winning 3-1, and there was just no pushback even in the third period after Rochester, I believe, scored all 3 goals in the second period. And there was just nothing. Laval just didn't have anything to come back at them with in the third period and lost that one 3-1. So still kind of teeter-tottering a little bit. They're getting the wins, but they're struggling in some places as well, but they're still doing okay. The Rocket are sitting with a 15-7-1 record, keeping them at second place overall in the North Division, 4th overall in the AHL. They're doing just fine. And we'll see. They're on the road now. They will play in Hartford, Connecticut against the Wolfpack. That's the New York Rangers affiliate on Saturday evening. And then Sunday afternoon, they will be in Bridgeport while they will take on the Islanders, the AHL affiliate of the New York Islanders.
Pleased to see that one of our favorites, Jared Davidson, is finally getting some attention from...
welcome to the party.
Yes, some of the mainstream folks have discovered Jared Davidson. We've been singing his praise, even back to his when he was in junior. Michael on the podcast and I were very high on Jared Davidson, and we even had on this podcast a countdown to his ELC, and that finally came earlier this year. So he's been great, leads the team in goals scored, and having a very successful season.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeah, he's got a great shot. He's not a big guy, but he can play physical.
Plays with a little edge.
Yeah, he'll drop the gloves.
Yeah.
He's looked very, very good this season. And who knows? Maybe you'll see him called up at some point.
That'd be good. I would be fine with that. Trois Rivières continuing kind of their surge after their, you can remember a couple of months ago they had kind of a shaky start to the season, but they continue to climb the standings. They won 2 of their 3 games this week. They're up to 7th overall in the ACHL, and that's not too shabby with their 13-3-3 record.
Yep, they've been playing good hockey recently, and of course you know that if you've been following Chris G's
That's right.
Lions Notepad. That comes out every Monday with a bit of a recap of the games that the Lions have played, and Chris G does a great job in both the Rocket Notepad as well as the Lions Notepad. You'll want to make sure that you read both of those articles every single week.
Absolutely. All right. The time has come. We cannot avoid it any longer. We must discuss a little more that 9-2 loss to the Penguins on Thursday night. I mean, the team got booed off the ice.
Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't happen all that often at the Bell Center. But they were vehemently booed off the ice. And Brendan Gallagher said, "Oh, okay."
It's an awful feeling, the fans are booing, they deserve to boo. We're not providing, an entertaining product. It's as simple as that. We're disappointed in ourselves, but for us, it's learn from it and make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yeah. They booed. There's some mock cheers, mock Olaying. There was, it was ugly, and you hear kind of frustration, exasperation in Brendan Gallagher's voice. He said they deserve to boo. We're not putting out very good value for their dollar, and then tossed in the standard line that we have to learn from it. But there's been plenty of learning opportunities so far this season.
Well, there are times that Brendan Gallagher can be a cliche machine when he doesn't quite know how to answer a question, but he did take it a little bit further and say, they can't just review it and say, well, you have to do better.
We say we got to learn from it. We do. But eventually, you can only say it so long. You have to go out there and take action as a group. And, like I said, it's just disappointing.
I know it's really tough to answer, but how as a team can you avoid this kind of fall? I mean, it's not the first time you allow a goal, then 2, then 3, then 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's been discussed. Obviously, it's a little bit more complex than one single thing. But again, we'll have to revisit it. We'll have to learn from it.
Yeah, and yeah, he said you can say that we have to learn, but at some point you have to go out there and take action.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that it's one thing to it's these losses aren't happening in isolation. They've been happening far too many times. If you look at this season, the number of times that they've given up 6 or more goals, and it's only 1/3 of the season that's gone by. You have October 10th, a 6-4 loss to the Bruins in Boston. October 14th, a 6-3 loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins. October 22nd, a 7-2 loss to the New York Rangers. October 29th, an 8-2 loss to the Seattle Kraken. That was a tough one. Halloween night, 6-3 loss to the Capitals in Washington. November 23rd, a 6-2 loss to the Vegas Golden Knights. December 1st, 6-3 loss to the Bruins in Boston. And that score kind of flattered them. They were not really in that.
No.
And then December 12th, a 9-2 loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's happening far too many times. And Well, the captain said simply, "It was embarrassing by us," and again, that's a phrase that's come up far too often.
Yeah.
That the Canadiens have put in embarrassing efforts. As far as you notice that most of those games came on the road, but this one I think hurt more because it was at home.
And the fans were there to tell them about it.
And the fans were there and justified. It just very difficult. And if you're wondering, this was our friend Guillaume Lafrancois at La Presse said, this is the first time since October 28th, 1998, that the Canadiens allowed 9 goals at home. And you think of the past 25 years or so, and there's been some bad teams in there. But this is the first time since in 25 years that the Canadiens allowed 9 goals at home. So this was particularly, there's been bad losses, there's been embarrassing losses. This one was particularly humiliating.
Well, and Jake Evans didn't mince words about it either. There were a lot of pretty dejected postures and facial expressions and words to go around, but Jake Evans saying, quote, "Maybe it's the 4th goal they get and we just quit or something. I don't know, but we'll have to fix that."
Again, we'll have to fix that. How is the question. But to say that that we just quit, Caden Gooley kind of was almost going there and then said, "No, I'm not going to say it." But when you have that feeling that that the team just gave up, that's serious. Those are serious problems. Jake Evans was brave enough to say it. But they, as Brendan says, they're going to have to act.
Absolutely. And after Friday's practice, of course, Marty St. Louis was asked about it after he had a chance to sleep on things. And he was pretty, what's the word that I want to use in his reply, but very quiet.
We've played some really good hockey lately. Like I said, even yesterday, it's a 3-2 games with 15 minutes to go. It's a combination of things of how it went the way it went. I didn't expect that. I don't think the group expected that. And now it's just, we have to answer, and it's, to me, I see it has to be a one-off, especially the way we've behaved ourselves the last month. This has to be a one-off.
He's right that there have been moments that the Canadiens have played good hockey. They have played, at times, better defensive hockey. They have played well on the power play. Patrick Laine has given them a jolt of good feeling, especially at home. Lane Hudson has lifted people out of their seats. But I think he sounds a little lost in this, in that he said we can't do this. This has to be a one-off. In other words,
this can't happen again.
It can't happen again. It can't be repeated, but it has been repeated. As we've said, and I just read the list: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times that they've given up 8 goals. You even look at after the 20-game mark. StatCenter from Sportsnet put out that the Canadiens, after 20 games, the Canadiens had the most times allowing 6 goals through the first 20 games of the season throughout the Canadiens franchise history. They were right up there. The worst goal differential by a Habs team in their first 20 games. The Canadiens this year were right up there. This is a team that this is not just a one-off. This keeps happening.
A pattern. And
I think because it keeps happening and there aren't any answers, and these humiliating, embarrassing losses keep happening. I don't want to say that Marty St. Louis is losing the team or losing the room, but I think that the players are quite lost. I think they're really struggling to look for leadership and for answers.
Absolutely. And I don't know that that's something that can continue for the entire season without starting to really erode the progress that they've made with the rebuild. So I'm going to have to see after the holidays and as we start to approach trade deadline what that's going to look like. Before we bring you what in our second segment is going to be what we think is on the Montreal Canadiens Christmas wish list, just want to get you some notes from around the league in general. The NHL Board of Governors met in Palm Beach on Monday and Tuesday this week. Number of different things were discussed, one of which starting some, as they put it, soft talks on a new CBA, which is coming up in just 2 years.
Yeah. Formal talks will probably not begin until February. I don't believe there's any major issues, so they've been talking more informally, not negotiating already, and trying to find some common ground on issues.
Salary cap projection. $92.5 million.
We already had heard that this was the figure that was coming, and there may be work if there's cooperation between the two, NHL and NHLPA, to make that a little higher, because the expectation is it's going to take a big jump after next year. So they're going to try to bridge that gap a little bit, and it looks like that might happen.
One interesting nugget that came out while kind of an illustration was trying to be made was that, and I believe this were they talking about the review system, or I can't remember.
Yeah, Bill Daly just kind of slipped this in
when talking. We've heard a lot of scuttlebutt in the last couple of weeks about how they're looking at potentially doing something about the length of time that it takes for video review, maybe capping a time limit, those types of things. And Bill Daly's talking at the Board of Governors meeting about how there has to be overwhelming support from the entire league for a change like this to be made. And he said, just like when we took the vote to decentralize the draft. And he casually, as an aside, said, when 80% of the teams were in favor of that. And I just stopped reading everything else because I was like, seriously? Because I'm in the camp of the other 20% who were not in favor of decentralizing the draft. And I still say this is something that eventually, and it may take 10 or 20 years, but I think eventually the league is going to realize that this was not the way to go. Eventually.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to move in that direction. That's where it's headed, and other not as strong in favor, but it looks like the league is, no decisions yet, moving in favor of adding 2 games to the regular season, subtracting 2 games from the preseason. So instead of an 82 game schedule, an 84 game schedule, and it's thought that they want to expand the international games so that there may be more special games or more trips across the pond.
It's, one of the execs specifically said they particularly would like to focus more on playing in the UK.
So if you're looking at the NHL, if Gary, if Bill Daly are looking at the NFL for inspiration about how to run the draft, which it seems they are, they would again look at how the NFL has handled games, and lots of NFL games in the UK this past season.
Definitely. The Florida Panthers are very likely in the 25-26 season going to get an outdoor game at the Miami Marlins ballpark. And I can't imagine what could possibly go wrong with that.
Well, it has a retractable roof to try and control the environment to some extent. I don't know if it will be open or closed or what the plan is. They're pretty confident in their ice plant.
Okay.
Where was it? Was it Palm Beach or where was that other game that they had?
Yeah, they did. They did.
And they pulled it off. It was fine. Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe be looking at a trip to Florida to go watch an outdoor hockey game. That'd be interesting. Kind of breaking news on the trade front just before we sat down to record this podcast today. The Anaheim Ducks traded defenseman Cam Fowler to St. Louis for a prospect and a second-round pick on Saturday morning.
Well, it'd been known that the Blues were looking for defensemen. They have a couple on the injury list. Anaheim, of course, just added Jacob Trouba. Cam Fowler has been an Anaheim Duck for the past 15 years.
I was gonna say forever.
Yeah. And so Anaheim moving him on to St. Louis. So the trades are starting and have been for a couple weeks now. It's thought that that there may be more activity. The trade deadline in March, of course, but it's thought that general managers might do the bulk of their trading prior to the Four Nations Cup in February, just in case anybody gets injured during that tournament. So they might want to get, if they're going to move a player, they might want to move them prior to that tournament.
Alrighty then. The other trade that went down this week was between Colorado and the San Jose Sharks. Colorado acquiring goaltender Mackenzie Blackwood and shipping out Alexander Georgiev. And if you think that feels like deja vu, you're right, because just a couple of weeks ago, the Colorado Avalanche also acquired goaltender Scott Wedgwood from the Nashville Predators in exchange for goaltender Justus Annunen. So in the course of a couple of weeks, Rick.
Yeah, Colorado just completely overhauled their entire goaltending department.
Kent, are you watching?
Shipping out their starter and backup, and Colorado brought in Blackwood and Wedgwood, which sounds like a law firm, but
and apparently there's a Miles Wood in the system somewhere.
Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so. So,
but yeah, there was an opportunity to make a couple of goaltending changes, and Colorado went ahead and did it.
All right. A bit of news out of the New Jersey Devils camp. They are going to be inducting Jacques Lemaire into their Ring of Honor in late January this year.
Jacques Lemaire, Hall of Fame player, Montreal Canadiens, number 25, one of my absolute favorite players to watch play. Of course, played most spectacularly between Steve Shutt and Guy Lafleur, but was... he was the defensive conscience for that line and became a defensive-minded coach for the New Jersey Devils. And on January 22nd, he'll be added to their Ring of Honor, which, well deserved for Jacques Lemaire, and congratulations on that.
While the Philadelphia Flyers are having an equally miserable season, they've had plenty of their struggles this season as well. Matvei Michkov has been a bright spot for them, and he is a constant source of chatter for Canadiens fans, particularly. And this week on BPM Sports Radio, player agent and hockey analyst David Edegi said, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that, said that Michkov did not say no to the Canadiens at last year's draft. That in fact it was they who chose not to select Michkov. He says in this interview, quote, "I even contacted the CH senior management one day before the draft and no." So that's interesting.
Yeah, and last year, that you mean 2023.
Correct.
NHL draft. And it was kind of widely circulated, and I don't know who started that particular rumor, that the Canadiens didn't pick him because, he wouldn't have come to play anyway. There were a couple of teams that were on Michkov's list. I think Arizona Coyotes at that point.
Yeah.
He said he didn't want to play for them. But the Montreal Canadiens were not one of them, says this player agent. It was just the Canadiens made a choice. Now, if you ask the Canadiens, they will say they were pretty confident that they preferred Ivan Demidov and that they had a chance to get him in the 2024 draft, which they did because everything miraculously just fell
Right
into
in their
place.
laps, yeah.
But Canadiens fans still look at Michkov with envy. He has 11 goals, 16 assists, 27 points, leading all rookies in goals and points. He is the runaway leader so far for the Calder. And he's was released earlier than expected from the KHL, and that was another worry, of course. But he's adapted well and is playing well for the Flyers. Is irritating John Tortorella at times because he keeps trying the Michigan, but he's endeared himself to Flyers fans, and that only makes it more difficult, especially with David Reinbacher out for most of the season with an injury.
Endearing himself with Flyers fans even includes when he gets ejected from a game, stopping in the tunnel to sign autographs on the way out, which is, that's a choice, let me tell you.
Yeah.
All right, we are going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors over at DraftKings, but listen up to this. This is not your typical DraftKings sponsor announcement. DraftKings has a brand new product that they are promoting, and they have a special offer just for our listeners and viewers when it comes to this new product that they're offering. So you definitely want to check this out if you're looking for kind of something new and a new way to participate with DraftKings. This is going to be the way to do it. So you're going to want to listen to this. We thank them for their sponsorship. And on the other side of it, we are going to be unwrapping the Habs holiday wish list. What do they need Santa to bring them the most? We're going to explore at least 10 things that should be at the top of their Christmas list. So check all of that out and stay with us because you are listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio.
You know, watching our favorite NHL players is just the gift that keeps on giving. And playing Pick 6 from DraftKings, an official partner of the NHL, is a way to take a shot at even more cash prizes. You can download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a statistic. Pick 6 is available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. And speaking of gifts, new Pick 6 customers play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Happy holidays from DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 30 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
And welcome back to the Canadiens Connection podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio. My name, once again, is Amy Johnson. You can find me on X at Flyers Rule. Give me a follow over there if you'd like. And also with me in the studio is, of course, our president and founder of Rocket Sports, Rick Stevens. You do want to be sure you're following him on X at Rocket Sports. And while you're there, follow this podcast at Habs Connection on X, Facebook, and Instagram. Visit our website at canadiensconnection.fm to catch up on any of our episodes that you might have missed. Also, remember to subscribe to the podcast on whatever podcast app you choose to use. Or if you are watching on YouTube, Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of our videos that come out, whether it's the Canadiens Connection or not. Subscribe, tap the notification bell, hit the like button, share this episode with your social media followers. That is always a big help for us. And also, don't forget to leave us a review if you happen to be listening on an app that allows you to do that. At the beginning of the 2024-25 campaign, it just started a couple of months ago, the goals as established by the organization were moving from a development phase to kind of, quote, learning how to win and to play meaningful games come March and April. That was the much maligned being in the mix, because they wanted to play meaningful games in March and April. But instead, the season has really been characterized by some great individual performances, Rick, like Lane Hudson, Patrick Laine. There's been some really special moments to celebrate already for individual players, but as we illustrated with that small segment in small section in the first segment, that's come alongside what's getting to be a lengthy series of really embarrassing losses for the Canadiens as well. So even though they were pretty successful in this last homestand, they left and ended that homestand with a bad taste in their mouths and in fans' mouths with that 9-2 humiliating loss. And so they are likely, as we've heard, from those quotes that we explored, they're looking for solutions. And a lot of them are saying, we have to fix that. We have to fix that. As you pointed out, how? They don't really have the answers for that yet. So this is a fun segment we typically do around the holiday season each year. What's on the Canadiens' Christmas wish list. But I think this is more of not kind of in general. I think we're taking it this year, Rick, more as kind of, what 10 things could Santa do to deliver? I like how you wrote this, actually, a festive fix. How do they fix it? Can Santa please bring a solution to fix it? So this could get interesting. Before we start it, though, we'll start on a positive note when we're talking about delivering.
Yeah.
Because we heard from Brendan Gallagher earlier, but Brendan Gallagher is getting a delivery, a special delivery. Might have been on their Christmas list. But he and his wife, Emma, are expecting their first child.
Well, congratulations to them. We know it was a summer of love, as described by Jake Evans, because there was a number of Montreal Canadiens weddings, and that has extended to baby Gallagher. Baby Gallagher coming this winter, as announced by his wife Emma on Instagram, and apparently it's a March due date for the Gallagher family, which includes Brendan, his wife Emma, and their dog Sky.
Baby Gally.
Mm-hmm.
Baby Gally. All right, so that's a happy delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the rest of the team would be happy with the delivery of plenty of things that Santa Claus could bring them to help them fix the troubles that are wearing on them. You want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I think the first thing that Santa could deliver them would be a 3-game winning streak.
We'll start.
Meaning, can you please put together more than 2 wins?
We'll start modest.
Yeah.
Not asking for, a 5-game or
no, nothing outrageous.
16-game winning streak, like some other teams are looking for a 3-game winning streak. Very modest, and unfortunately, the last one I can remember, there hasn't been one this season, and I think you have to go back to February 2023 or thereabouts for the Canadiens' last 3-game winning streak. If you go back to 2022, again, February, maybe February is a good month.
Maybe.
February 2022 for a 4-game winning streak. But they need to, we heard from Marty St. Louis when they were going through that losing streak that all they needed was one. All they needed was a lucky break. All they needed was to get one, and then things would snowball. We've heard that phrase as Marty's talked about both the team and about individuals, and they just can't get past the 2-win mark so far this season.
And that means, unless you have a rare 2-game week, that means that there hasn't been a week that has gone by that Canadiens fans could just celebrate a winning week. That if they've played a typical 3-game week, that they're always losing at least one game most of the time. And that can get kind of wearing. Like, you just, let's just have a week where you win. Win 3 games in a row. All right. I digress. I'll let you move on to what else could Santa bring to the Canadiens to help them fix their problems?
Consistent goaltending.
Please,
I think
Lord.
that's the number one thing is consistent goaltending. And listen, Sam Montembeault has had some solid games, including that very first game of the season, and there's been a couple more. But to be a starter, especially a starter who is going to be starting 3 games in a row, 5 games in a row, you have to deliver consistently, and he hasn't. And it's not just, I understand that the Canadiens have had defensive issues. They addressed that so that the forwards were coming back and creating a wall, clogging up the neutral zone, making it difficult, killing plays. And still the goaltending hasn't been there. They haven't got the saves when they've really needed them. As well as, giving up 2-3 bad goals in a game like the game was difficult against the Penguins, but there was 2 or 3 bad goals given up by Montembeault. And Caden Primo, as we said, has lost his confidence. His numbers are terrible. Even though he's only started 7 games this year, 3 times that many, 22 starts for Sam Montembeault. And the Canadiens need consistent goaltending. What's the answer to that? That's very difficult. Maybe you have to give Caden Primo more starts so he regains his confidence. Maybe you have to send him to Laval. Not so much. I dread disturbing the mix that they have in Laval, but you have to do something to help Caden Primo to get his confidence back. And Sam Montembeault you got to realize that he's not necessary. He'd be a backup on almost any other team, and he's not the kind of starter who can carry the load so much. Very, very. The goaltending has been a big issue this season.
Absolutely. I would say that for item number 3 that should be on the Canadiens' wish list, getting some assets, Santa. Assets and in fact, we're feeling so generous, Santa, that you're welcome to take some players with you to give to other teams who might have them on their wish list. In return for those assets, please. Guys like David Savard, Christian Dvorak, Jake Evans could bring in some good assets because he's actually a player that they would sorely miss to lose, but might be necessary.
Yeah, the departing players, we know the list: Savard, Dvorak, Armia, Evans. Michael Pezzetta is a whole different story.
Yeah.
We know the list, and there's a reluctance to Jake Evans is playing good hockey. Jake Evans is contributing, and if you could re-sign Jake Evans for a reasonable price, then there's no reason to get rid of a Jake Evans. But I don't know that that's going to happen. But the others, Dvorak, Savard, Armia, if you can get assets for them, draft picks, and I've heard the argument that the Canadiens have plenty of picks. What in the world are they going to do with another second round pick or another first round pick or another third round pick? Well, I think if Kent Hughes wants to be active, and wants to be both on the free agent, but mostly on the trade market going into next season, he's going to have a boatload of assets to be able to make the deal that he wants to make. And so letting these players go for nothing is the Canadiens aren't in a position to do that. And there was just the inane, silly article about the only reason this week on Thursday that the only reason that the Canadiens lost so poorly to Pittsburgh 9-2, a big humiliating loss, was that David Savard wasn't in the lineup. It's just it's dumb. And what about those other 7 games that we mentioned? Was he in the lineup for those? Yeah, of course he was. David Savard has, he's lost a step. He lost a step a few years ago in the NHL, but his performance has dropped off a cliff. Is he still a good guy around the team? Sure he is. Yeah. But if you can get something for David Savard, that's you're probably going to use that asset. Does it put them in a difficult situation on the right side? Sure, it does. But I don't think that it's worth keeping around. And as I said, his performance has declined so much that there's going to be no value left by the end of his contract.
Oh boy, I hope for that one. I really do. All right, give us number 4. What is the 4th thing on the Habs wish list for Santa this year?
5-on-5 scoring. We've mentioned it all season long that the Canadiens near the bottom of the list, bottom of the goals per game, goals per 60 with a 5-on-5. Been better on the power play this season. Been better in penalty killing as well. But 5-on-5 scoring, they need 5-on-5 scoring. Now it was thought that Patrick Laine could help that. He certainly contributed on the power play. That's for sure. But you can't expect him to carry the load, particularly with as little hockey as he's played in the last little while. They need 5-on-5 scoring across the lineup.
Definitely, I agree. Speaking of Patrick Laine, he comes in at number 5 on this list, and that is just wishing for good health for Patrick Laine. It was such a long road back for him, even coming to Montreal this fall, and to watch all of that slip away so quickly by getting so seriously injured in a preseason game had to have been very difficult for him. It was devastating to watch. I admire how he persevered. I admire how he seemed to take everything in stride and seemed to stay positive. And now that he is back and playing, this is the most rejuvenated we have seen Patrick Laine in years, both on and off the ice. And I think if he can just stay healthy and just keep playing the way that he's playing and keep building on it, I think that could mean very good things for Patrick Laine and consequently then very good things for the Montreal Canadiens and their prospects for them to learn from Patrick Laine for a while to come.
Letting him enjoy hockey again. Yeah. And it has been. He's talked about what a special place Montreal is to play. Whatever he contributes, just the energy in the building and the example, as you said, to the younger Canadiens, the real interesting relationship between Elaine Hudson and Patrick Laine and mutual admiration and that's worth a whole lot. And it's great to have him back. Let's just hope that he can stay in the lineup till the end of the season.
Dear Santa, we know that the Habs have already asked you for 5 very big gifts, but could you please grace them with a 6th one as well?
If you've been listening to us, you've heard us say these words before. The Canadiens need coaching help. It's obvious. It's painfully obvious. that they need coaching help.
They can't hide from it much longer.
And it has to be acknowledged and it has to be brought in. Is it a good time to bring in coaching help mid-season? No, because there's lack of availability. But you saw when the St. Louis Blues saw a coach that could help, they felt could help them in Montgomery, they acted immediately. They didn't waste any time. They just went ahead and did it. And so the Canadiens have to acknowledge that they need help and wants someone that they want and that can help them and can bring the experience to the bench. And because Marty's floundering right now. He is floundering. I think ever since the bag skate, that was kind of the last resort, and he hasn't known what to do after that. Yeah. He is really struggling. An experienced coach would have been through that 4 or 5 times by now. He is going through this difficult period where he can't find the solutions. And to avoid these big humiliating losses, he needs help, and the Canadiens need to acknowledge that and be ready to pounce when the person they want comes available.
That's right. Our list isn't done yet, Santa. We're so sorry. The Canadiens have, one thing that could really inject some swagger into the bench. It would be if they could close the deal on a breakaway goal, because they haven't been able to do it in quite a while.
I saw this stat. I thought it was interesting. To be honest, I did not go back and check this stat. Let's just, because it's a Santa wish list, let's include it here, that the Montreal Canadiens have not scored a breakaway goal in their last 10 attempts. Okay. So maybe a breakaway goal would be kind of a way of injecting some emotion into the bench.
That's right. There have to be some emotions around item number 8 on the wish list.
You got to feel for Michael Pezzetta. He's played just 3 games this season. Even when there's injuries, even when there's there's call-ups there, they tend to be in line ahead of Michael Pezzetta. He's played just the 3 games, and we said at the time that why did the Canadiens offer the contract they did, because he didn't seem to have a role with the team. Well, even less so this season, and so much so that this past week, during a Caden Gooley interview, he got in there with a water bottle and tried to, he said, a quick question over here. And Caden said, no, I'm not answering. I'm not. Yes. Pezzetta tried to play reporter. And good for him for keeping his spirits up and trying to deal with it in a light way. But it's difficult. If it's even putting him on waivers and sending him to Laval so he can at least get some playing time in.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you'd like him to have a role.
And he's been a good sport about it, not just this year, because it wasn't this drastic last year, but there were plenty of times that he was sitting last year as well. And he always responded with, I just, whatever's best for the team, just trying to be a good team guy. And he's done that season after season. So do something for him. Do something for him. Number 9 for me, I'd like Kirby Dach to finally get to where he needs to be. And if that means baby steps in terms of getting there, then maybe the first baby step for Kirby Dach could be going on a run of consecutive plus-rated games, because his plus-minus rating is in the basement, and it's awful. And maybe that could be a place to start.
Yeah, a minus 21, and that's worst on the Canadiens by a wide margin in plus-minus. And again, it's Kirby Dach scored his second goal, only his second goal of the season. On Monday, it was a fluky goal. The goalie gave it away, and we know that. And hopefully, that was going to, be a jolt to his confidence and unlock him a bit. He didn't have a good game on Thursday, and that line didn't have a good game. Slavkovsky, Lina, and Kirby Dach, so much so that line was broken up. Slavkovsky moved with Suzuki and Caulfield back to almost kind of the same time last season where that line was put together, and Newhook on the second line. So Kirby's just got to get feeling good about himself, and if he's not scoring, he's got to be contributing in other ways, and he can't be a liability. And he's been a liability, and his effort level has reflected that, I think, for a good part of the season.
Oh, we can hope. We can hope. All right. Number 10. Because Santa probably likes round numbers. So, number 10 on the list of things that Santa could do to deliver a festive fix to the things that are ailing the Montreal Canadiens on their holiday list this year. Rick, drum roll.
Yeah, if I had one, I'd give you one. Hang on.
You don't want me to sing. There you go. Go for it. This is your item.
A long Calder Cup run for the Laval Rocket. That's what that would, for the organization, that would be terrific.
Yeah.
The Laval Rocket, great start, cooled off a little bit, but I have confidence in Pascal Vincent and the prospects who are carrying the ball in Laval to have a strong season, and wouldn't it be nice for them to have a good long Calder Cup run, gain some playoff experience? Players like Owen Beck, who's having a terrific season, Logan Mailloux, Joshua, Jared Davidson, who we talked about, David Reinbacher if he comes back in March or so, and Jakub Dobish. How valuable would that be if those players are able to just have a positive season despite what's going on in the big organization, to have that, and whether they win a Calder Cup or not, just to have a long playoff run would be terrific.
It would be, absolutely. What's holidays? What's Christmas without a little overindulgence, right?
Okay.
So why stop at 10? Maybe we should throw at least one bonus in, like one.
What would that be?
Well, maybe this wasn't on necessarily a Christmas list, but maybe it was on Ivan Demidov's birthday wish when he blew out his candle.
Yeah, it was his 19th birthday on Tuesday, I believe. Belated happy birthday to Ivan. The poor guy just wants more ice time.
That's right.
So, yeah, Santa, can you bring him more ice time, please? And the Canadiens fans want more ice time for Demidov. Now, if you're Alex Kovalev, he was quoted this week and said, quit whining and pouting about the ice time. Just go out there and earn it and demand it. I don't know if it's that simple. With Roman Rotenberg, but yes, more ice time for Demidov, please.
Well, I think that's a good wish as well. And I know this wouldn't be on the Montreal Canadiens Christmas wish list to Santa, but it is on mine, and it's to bring them a new entrance song. Sorry, not sorry. That's all I'm saying about it. Maybe the Coldplay.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get much support for that.
I know. All right. I'll live on my island all by myself. All right. Well, that was a pretty fun segment.
Yeah, it was great.
So we want to know our Canadiens Connection question for the week this week. If you could give the Canadiens one gift this holiday season, if you could play Jolly Old St. Nick and put a gift in the Canadiens collective stocking this year, what would it be? What would be at the top of your list to give the Canadiens for Christmas this year? Maybe it's coal. I don't know. Maybe, maybe you're not feeling very generous to the Canadiens this year, or maybe there is something that you think they deserve to have. Don't forget how to answer that question. You can send us a text on the Rocket Sports text line. You can send messages there anytime that you like. 585-3-ROCKET. Again, that's 585-3-ROCKET. You can leave a comment down below the video on YouTube if you are watching the Canadiens Connection on our YouTube channel. And you can also, as we're going to hear from a bunch of our listeners in the third segment, you can leave a message on our Facebook page, any of our social media channels as well. That's a great way to get in touch with us as well. We've got some great Facebook comments coming up in the next section, amongst other things. And so we want to hear from you. If you could give the Canadiens one gift this holiday season, what would it be? While you ponder that and maybe start thinking about how you want to answer that, we are going to take our last break here on the show and hear from our sponsors over at Game Time. Maybe you are purchasing concert tickets or hockey tickets or some other sporting event tickets for a loved one for Christmas this year. Well, may I recommend that you listen to this promotion from Game Time and take advantage of the exclusive offer that we have for our listeners to get some money off of your first ticket purchase using our code at Game Time. So take a listen to that and then come right back so that we can hear from you, as well as share with you some pretty fun news regarding all of us here at Rocket Sports. So you don't want to miss any of that. You are listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio. We all love settling in our favorite chair at home to watch a night of NHL action, but nothing beats getting to see your favorite team play live. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I'm looking right now in the Game Time app at the Montreal Canadiens' upcoming homestand, and I'm seeing ticket prices starting at $30. $30 to get into the Bell Center to see the Montreal Canadiens. There are tons of deals available. What I really like about the Game Time app for tickets is their all-in pricing. If you toggle the feature on the app for all-in pricing, it shows the complete total cost for the tickets up front so that you don't get any surprise fees at checkout. You also get seat views. You can select to see a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you know exactly what your view is going to look like. They have a lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And the Game Time app just makes it so simple. You can buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps in the app. Last minute deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. And welcome back to the Canadiens Connection podcast right here on Rocket Sports Radio, episode 326, well underway, but we still have a little bit more to go. This is one of our favorite segments in our show each and every week, is when we get to let you have your say and we get to hear from you. Before we get to your responses to last week's Canadiens Connection question of the week, however, just want to give you a quick reminder to be sure that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. Just head over to InsideTheCanadiens.com. That will take you directly to our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment on any video that you watch. We love to interact with all of you on our YouTube channel. This past week, The Canadiens Connection podcast came out there. When's the last time the Montreal Canadiens power play was this good? And there's also a recent Rocket Hockey report there for you to see as well. So you want to check that out. As we mentioned before, if you miss an episode, just head over to CanadiensConnection.fm. Check out our full archive there. And really, if this holiday season, if you're looking to find a way to just say thanks for bringing you the show for 326 episodes, the thing on our holiday list this year would be you subscribing to the podcast and the YouTube channel, and also by leaving us a 5-star review either on Apple Music or on Spotify. And really, if you want to just go that extra mile, sharing this episode on your favorite social media platform, that would really, really go a long way towards helping us in the new year. And we would appreciate that very much. In fact, Rick, once we get past Christmas, New Year's right around the corner. And I know you wanted to talk for just a little bit about kind of a thank you to our listeners for what they have done for us this past year. It kind of going along with what I was just talking about there.
Yeah, kind of a year-end report back to the folks that listen to us. And in this case, it's going to talk about the listeners who find us and listen to us regularly on Spotify. Of course, we're on all podcast platforms. You can find us anywhere. Choose the one that you're most comfortable with. But on Spotify, if you're a Spotify member, or if you listen to music and podcasts on Spotify, you get a year-end product report that they call Wrapped. You get individual ones that tell you all about the music you've listened to and your favorites. But they also, Spotify has something called 2024 Wrapped for creators. And I just thought I'd share this, sent to me, share this with our listeners because I found it fascinating.
So this is just for Spotify.
And this is just for Spotify. It says, fans are really loving your show in 2024. You took it to a whole new level. Listeners were up 46%. The massive increase to our listeners and subscribers, up also 46% on Spotify. And so that's fabulous. We thank you for that. We thank you for finding us. We thank you for sharing the podcast and making us one of your. We're also in the favorites quite often of so many of the listeners. The top 5 podcasts that they listen to. Where are these listeners? Well, our podcast, The Canadiens Connection, was streamed in 23 countries. Listeners from 23 countries. Of course, Canada was top, followed by the U.S. Very closely. So we thank you for that. The top episode this past year was episode number 303, and the title of that was The NHL Prospect. An NHL prospect analyst breaks down the Montreal Canadiens' newest talent. And that was draft and prospects analyst Chris Peters, who joined us on the 6th of July to review and analyze the top picks that the Canadiens had taken in that draft. That was the most popular episode this season. If you listen to the Canadiens Connection, what else do you listen to on Spotify? Well, our listeners also listen to Spit and Chicklets. They listen to Joe Rogan. They listen to the Elliot Friedman and the 32 Thoughts podcast, and they listen to the Basu and Gadan notebook. So if you know anybody who is listening to any of those podcasts and they're not listening to the Canadiens Connection, you might want to suggest.
Get with the program.
Yeah, suggest, hey, yeah. As far as our rating, you mentioned if you'd be so kind to give us a 5-star review, we'd appreciate it. Well, most of our listeners do just that, who've made ratings. We have a 4.5 rating on Spotify. And in summary, they give a personality of your podcast, of your creator personality, and Spotify calls us storytellers, and I think that's very, very appropriate. So thank you to Spotify. Thank you especially to all our listeners, not only the ones on Spotify, but we're very grateful for all our growth, the massive growth that we've experienced, for all of our new listeners and subscribers, and we look forward to more of that in 2025. And we'll be here every single week, every Saturday, as we have been for the last dozen years or so.
Absolutely. That's a great report, and that's just from Spotify. So imagine what that looks like for our other platforms as well. Thank you so much to all of you who helped make that happen, because literally none of that happens without you. So we thank you for your loyal listenership and viewership. All right, so don't forget, we want to hear from you in other ways as well. We want to hear from you on our text line, 5853-ROCKET, or on our YouTube channel comment section, or on our social media channels in response to this week's Canadiens Connection question of the week. If you could give the Canadiens one gift this holiday season, you get to play Santa Claus. What would it be? Now, as we always do, we will then go through and pick out some of the best responses to read on next week's show. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. If you recall, last week we had a two-part Canadiens Connection question of the week. We asked, first off, which Canadiens power play was your favorite to watch all time? And we also asked, which Four Nations face-off team has assembled the most talented roster? And so, Rick, we're actually going to, before we get to comment from YouTube, we're going to start over on Facebook because we had a lot of responses on Facebook this week.
Yeah, we welcome responses everywhere to all our social media. This week we'll focus a little bit on Facebook. We appreciate whether you comment on X, on Facebook, on via email at hello@rocketsportsmedia.com, Hockey Buzz, YouTube. But let's read a couple that came in on Facebook this week. This is Phil Rizzuto in Tennessee. Phil in Tennessee says, the rookies and the younger players are being given more responsibility, so therefore they're not winning, but they're learning and gaining experience. Go Habs. So
I like it.
The losses don't worry Phil. He's pleased that the young players are getting good responsibility.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Stephen Prince is responding to the question of basically the title of last week's episode, which was, is this the best Canadiens power play in years? And he sums it up. We're not sure where he's from. He didn't leave a location. So if you can, in the future, anyone, just make sure you leave. You don't have to give us your exact location, just state, province, country. Let us know. He says it very simply. He just says, no way. Not the best Canadiens power play in years. So Stephen Prince needs more convincing. Habs.
Tim Kinney sent us a messenger message on Facebook. Tim is in New Brunswick. We hear from Tim periodically, and he writes long, very complete and detailed messages, and we really appreciate hearing every time for Tim. I thought I'd share this one. He says, good morning. Here's my thoughts for the day. I feel after watching the Habs' recent games that the refs have been making some extra questionable calls. I don't think there's too many people that will argue that point. Another example occurred Thursday night against Pittsburgh, where Patrick Laine was called for 2 minutes by the ref outside the zone, while the ref closest to the actual call did not make the call. Review showed it was a ghost call and actually changed the game for the night. My question is, why can't the refs huddle and talk and say, I know what it looked like from your view, but I was right beside it. It was not a hook. Then overturn the call. The league spends minutes reviewing a 1-inch offside video, but alternatively puts zero resources into getting calls like this one correct. He goes on and talks about NFL referees and how they overturn calls and booth reviews and so on. He's thought about this very carefully, and I think he's right. We've seen on occasion the refs get together and overturn calls, especially if they call a major and then they reduce it to a minor penalty. The whole booth review, the war room as it's called in Toronto has been upgraded, and there's talk. Elliot Friedman has brought that to us a couple of weeks ago, that maybe they'll be given more power because they can see things that the refs on the ice can't see. Anyway, a very detailed question and comment by Tim and Tim in New Brunswick, and we really thank him for his contribution.
Definitely. We will pop in over on YouTube for just a second. At Center Heist 7948 did have some thoughts about his favorite Canadiens power play of all time to watch. He says 1979 Habs power play and all the 70s could fall into it for me. But for me, Lafleur, Lemaire, Schutt, and Robinson, and not sure if it was Savard or Lapointe. And
at times it was
either.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I have to say that's a good selection if you're gonna select a Habs power play unit.
We talked about that group last week on the podcast.
We did. He goes on to answer the second question as well and says, and as far as Four Nations, I think U.S. may be the deepest, but I have to say the best top line, Canada, for Crosby, McKinnon, McDavid. I would have went with Canada, but I think this is the weakest our goaltending has ever been. Great show. So Center Heist says he thinks the U.S. has the deepest roster, although he does believe Canada has the best top line, but that it's the goaltending that's going to come up as a weak link for Team Canada.
Best team doesn't always win.
I think they do. And I have it on good authority. I'm not naming names, but I have it on good authority that there are Canadians who have already told me that they will be rooting for Team USA.
You're not talking about, let's be clear, you're not talking about me.
I'm not talking about you. No, this is, there are fans and listeners.
That have
I'm
reached out.
telling you, the team, so you talk all you want about the best team doesn't always win.
All
Some
right.
of your fellow Canadians.
I'll find out who these people are.
And you will do nothing to them.
No, I won't. No, because they're great.
They're
great
They're
listeners.
They're great listeners. We love to hear from about all the things. So make sure that you send in your responses and your comments and your questions and your feedback. The Canadiens, they have a tall task. On Saturday night. They're actually in Winnipeg on Saturday night, playing against Connor Hellebuck and the Jets. So that will be, we'll see how they can recover from that loss against Pittsburgh on Thursday. Then they will move on to play Buffalo. And then they will move on to play Detroit. So Winnipeg might be a tall task. We'll see we'll see how things go against the Sabres and the Red Wings later on this week. And all of that is before our last episode prior to Christmas, which will take place on Saturday, December 21st, a week from today. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of our episodes, because we will be here throughout the holiday season and even beyond that. And just want to say thank you once again for tuning in, for listening, for sending in your feedback, sending in your answers, and for helping to make 2024 a terrific year here for the Canadiens Connection podcast and for all of us here at Rocket Sports Media. We'll have more on that before the end of the year. For now, thank you for listening. Enjoy this week's Habs games, and we'll see you back here again next week for another great episode of the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio.
Click subscribe so you never miss an episode of Canadiens Connection. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Rocket Sports.